Hey y'all, it's Laura. Welcome back to another Coco Vanilla Studio video. This time we are using the Great Escape collection for these great photos from a camping trip that the kids took a while ago now, and we're going to keep the background on this one fairly simple. Just using some paper strips. So I'm going to start out with a vertical strip and a horizontal strip and kind of crisscross them at the side here at the bottom left corner. And then I'm coming in with some other strips. I have this one that I have fussy cut out from the border strips paper in the Great Escape collection. And then I have a strip of the rainbow stripe that's just right down off the center of the page. Just cut it. So that I could use it for some strips here. And then I have this green one as well. And at first I was thinking to build just from this corner section here, but over time I decided to go ahead and add a third section of photos up here at the top. And so I have two sets of photos in the smaller size, so this is a 2x3 inch set of photos that I printed with my Epson PictureMate, and I have a set at the left and a set at the bottom, and then I decided for my title and for my main photos to just have them on a bit of a shelf here in the middle. And I'm playing around with placement, seeing where I want things to go, but I wanted to keep this background fairly simple because I have so many photos going on. I wanted to make sure I'm not overdoing it with way too much stuff in the background that's going to distract from those photos. So the focus of this layout is really going to be keeping it fairly minimal and then really digging into the detail work so that my details on here kind of make up for the fact that the background is so simple. And I do this quite often in my scrapping. It is very much a part of my style to stick to very simple backgrounds, but the details in my clusters, how I arrange things, is just much more thoughtful than maybe I would do if I was putting into a lot of effort in the background. Then had a very busy background, then I try to keep my embellishing simple. But what if I have just a white cardstock background and a lot of photos especially, I do try to keep everything else simple. That is how this layout is going to work. So I have my little shelf here in the middle. I have my little L shape on the side. It's kind of a combination of designs, and I really have been experimenting with that a lot, enjoying it quite a bit lately. I have all of my embellishments in this embellishment tray over here on the left side. This is just from Amazon. It's just a plastic condiment tray, and I use it to dump out my embellishments or keep my fussy cutting all together so that it doesn't get scattered all over the place, or I have to maintain all these little baggies and things. And so when I'm actually using a collection or a kit, I have all this fussy cutting just available. I find I reach for it. I'm just more likely to use the bits and pieces that are accessible rather than those that are not. And so keep that in mind in your own scrappy space. If you find I'm just not reaching for these things or those stickers or these enamel dots, put them on your desk, like just within visual distance that you can quickly just grab them, and you will find yourself reaching for them far more often than if they're away in a drawer or in a basket up on a shelf. You're not as likely to reach for them, and I just find that's true for me especially. So having a little bit of a play, trying out some different things. I knew I wanted my title to go underneath of the main 3x4 photos here in the center, which feature two of my kiddos. The rest of the photos are essentially shots of the landscape and the waterfalls at this absolutely stunning campground. So this was in Cumberland Falls, and I think it's in Kentucky. I'm pretty sure it's in Kentucky. And this was one of those trips that really made a big impression on my kids, partially because when they did their hikes, it really had a big payoff at the end. Like, you would do a lot of hiking, but then you would get to see scenery that really just boggled your mind, that just, oh wow, okay, that was worth that long hike up here, getting all sweaty and gross to get up here to see these absolutely stunning waterfalls. They were beautiful, and the pictures that they came back with, I was thrilled and could not wait to get them scrapped. But then I didn't scrap them because I didn't really have a collection that I thought worked well with these photos. When you're working with outdoor photos and especially big landscape shots of waterfalls and things like that, I really feel like it's better to have a collection that doesn't stand out too much from your photos and really blends in well with the theme of those photos. If you have something that is so super specific, it's helpful to have a themed collection for photos like this. Now, I could have used certainly a lot of different collections from Cocoa Vanilla for these photos because they are pretty easy to use. There's a lot of simple shapes that just make them very flexible, and I really enjoy that. But this collection really motivated me to dig out those photos and want to scrap them. And that for me is a big deal. I do tend to be a bit of a mood scrapper. You may have heard of a mood reader. Well, I'm a bit of a mood scrapper, and I need to be in an artsy, creative mode to really dive into my scrapping and enjoy it. And so if I have a collection that is really calling to me, that is like, yes, this collection is perfect for these photos, you need to scrap them right now, that is definitely going to get me more excited to scrap and make it easier for me to get into that creative mode than if it's not. If it's just a collection where I'm like, this is really pretty, but I don't know what to use it for. Obviously, that's a little bit harder to figure out what pictures to use. It's going to take me a little bit more to get my mojo going. And for this, I was so excited to get this in my little hands and then go, yes, I know the perfect photos for that. I love when that happens. That's just one of those like scrapbooker nirvana things, right? Where it's like, yes, this is like the perfect situation in scrapbooking where you have the perfect supplies and the perfect photos and you have the scrappy mojo. Everything is aligned. All of the chakras have aligned and you can become your best scrappy self. And that's what it felt like to scrap this collection, is because it just worked so perfectly with my photos. The colors, especially pictures of my boys, just work so beautifully with this color scheme, with these very simple elements. The stars especially are just an excellent shape for boy collections and for boy layouts, in my opinion. They just work so well. Now, in planning this layout out and thinking about how I wanted to get things set up, I did think about using these little flags along the left side of the page. And initially I thought this looked really good, and I do still think it works. I think it could have worked just fine. But for me, it felt like it was a bit too much. It was kind of crowding my photos at the bottom, and it made the photos at the top just not look as important because they were just part of a flagpole. And I do have some other photos from a scout camping trip that was at, like, some of the pictures were at a flagpole, and I was thinking in my head, oh, you know what, I could use this concept of this flagpole on that layout, and so for this layout, let's just do something different. But I also felt like I was losing the importance of the photos at the top left, and they were just kind of getting lost in that part of the design. And so instead I decided to build up some stars behind those photos to help draw your attention to that section of photos, because I love those ones. And then I'm going to do just some very, very light embellishing on that vertical strip with just some smaller stars along the way, just for a little, again, a little bit more detail oriented. We're looking for smaller details, closer clusters right next to my photos, nothing that's going to draw your attention away or that's going to distract from the photos. So you'll notice a lot of the bright color pops, like my title, right on top of the photo. Those little half circles that I still haven't quite figured out what those are meant to represent yet. They're like half moons, or I keep seeing them as bowls, stacked bowls, but I love them. They're a great shape, and I haven't played with that shape before, so I'm really enjoying something a little bit different. And those are nice and bright colored. The stars are nice and bright colored, putting those right directly around my photos. I'm not creating any areas of interest away from my photos that are going to draw your attention off of them, because I want them to stay the focus. That is just my personal preference in my scrapping, is to keep my photos the focus. And I wanted the big photos to be the ones that my kids were in. That was important to me. But these scenery shots are great too. I just find it really difficult to enjoy scrapping only scenery shots with no people in them. And so if I wanted to get these on a page, I knew what I needed to do was go ahead and add them on to a page that already had photos with people in it. Now, if I'd had a few more scenery shots, I probably would have added another little cluster of photos just below the top left one. So it had two on the vertical and then this longer one on the bottom, and that would have worked too. But it would have been pretty heavy. It would have been a very heavy layout. However, I would have done it. If I had the photos, I would have done it, but these were the ones that I had, and so I wanted to work with what I had, and I really love how this layout came out. It's just so fun. It's kind of funky and asymmetrical, and I really, really enjoyed making it. So this is what I decided to do. I love this little signpost here at the bottom. I thought that was a good way to add some detail without drawing too much attention to itself. Again, it's very simple. It blends in with the background a little bit. But if you're looking for the details, you will find them. They are there. And one of the ways we're going to bring in those details are with some tiny stars. So when I do my fussy cutting, I not only cut out the bigger shapes, but also the smaller ones, the teeny tiny florals and the little bitty hearts and stars. I absolutely fussy cut those out too, because I use them for what I call scattering, which is just the details at the very end of the layout that really give it that pop, that kind of finishing touch for the layout that just makes it feel a little extra special. And to me, it makes it feel finished. And so I've also, down in this little bowl here, I have some punched stars that are from the scraps. So anything that I fussy cut out, if there was still color in the background, I went ahead and punched out some teeny, teeny, tiny little stars using a little hand punch for some more details. I am going to be doing a star explosion layout at some point with this collection. I can already see that happening. So yes, we're going to dive into the stars a little bit here. We'll dive into them a little bit more heavily in the next layout. And then I think in probably next month's design team collection, we will do more stars. Just keep adding stars until we reach star explosion levels. That is a wonderful experience when everything just really comes together all at once, and it's easy. I love when it's easy to scrap. It's far better than when you're just sitting there trying to come up with ideas and nothing is really working, nothing is coming together for you. That is so frustrating. And so when I have these like breakthrough moments in my creative time, in my creative space, that is such a satisfying feeling. And so I really try to go with it. I try to follow my gut as much as possible when I'm scrapbooking. If I feel like there's a certain way that the layout is going that, you know, oh, I like this a little bit better, I'm just going to go with it. So you'll often see me switch things up and say, that could have worked in the voiceover, but I chose something else in the moment because I'm just following my gut. And I'm going to encourage you to do that as well. Play around, audition things in different places, see where you like them, and then if it works, awesome. And if it doesn't, just keep moving things around. Just keep trying new things. And I find that that really helps me to get a feel for what the layout needs balance-wise, what the layout needs color-wise, because I like to spread the color out throughout the layout. For example, you have a bright pop of the orange of that star and the yellow at the photos at the top left. Then you have a bright pop of the orange right there on the title in the middle, and then a bright pop of the yellow at the bottom. So those bright pops are spread throughout the layout, and so that you don't just have one area that is the only focal image, you have 3 areas of photos that you want to draw attention to. And playing around with color will help you do that, to help you focus that attention on one area or another. Now to finish this one off, I am going to go ahead and outline all of these little paper strips just to give them a little definition. Kind of creates a shadow on the page. So this is a similar effect to the old style of inking the edges. I just find this faster, easier, and less messy because I get ink everywhere when I try to ink the edges. And so outlining is just my way to avoid messing with ink. Scattering and splattering is how I finish up all of my layouts. And I always start with a controlled splatter, i.e. Nuvo drops, and then I finish up with an uncontrolled splatter using a gold ink spray. Now there's a lot of different brands of gold ink spray out there. I've tried several. Most of them are generally the same. They do the job and just adds a little bit of extra finishing touch to the layout. And I really think that for me, this kind of triggers in my brain, this layout is done. And that's a great place to be, because sometimes you just want to stare at your layout forever thinking it needs something. And this in my mind is kind of like a trigger of, no, we're done. That's it for this one, guys. I do hope you have enjoyed it. Please check out cocovanilla.com.au for more inspiration. And until next time, bye y'all.